Hi, folks. Welcome to Code and Concrete, where we share the latest trends and the stories of trailblazers in the built environment. We hope you gain some insight from our wide range of topics, such as real estate development and sustainability, or blockchain, artificial intelligence, and data. Joining us today is Tommy Stanek. Tommy is a visionary leader transforming the construction industry through AI-driven efficiency. As the co-founder and CEO of Graceful Management Systems, we'll call it GMS, he tackles the $177 billion problem of outdated project management, inaccurate estimates, and scheduling inefficiencies. With a track record of scaling multi-million-dollar ventures, Tommy pioneered an award-winning AI-powered system that optimizes contractor operations, reducing labor costs and enhancing profitability. A sought-after speaker and industry expert, he's passionate about innovation, leadership, and reshaping construction's reputation. Tommy, I want to start there. So what's some public speaking that you've done recently? And by the way, it's great to have you on the show and give you another opportunity for a little bit of public speaking.
Thanks very much. You know, a lot of times I'm kind of brought into business coaching type atmospheres where we're looking at ways to, as I'm focused on now with technology, optimizing business operations, helping bring teams together, recognize that they're in fact working on a mutual objective and ways to prevent people from stepping on each other's toes, and actually find ways to appreciate how things are structured so that things can be done more efficiently and how valuable teams are.
I think the educational perspective in technology and startups is really, really important. And I go through this a lot as a founder, where we're not just pitching a product or trying to drive innovation and get more customers. We actually have to talk people through almost a new way of thinking. And I think GMS is a really good example of this, where traditional industry processes are anything but graceful. And you have to rewire people's brains, not just giving them new technology, but actually show them how to be more cooperative. So is that why it's called Graceful? Because you are trying to instill that atmosphere in construction?
You hit it on the head, although I would backtrack and say, well, it seems like we're training on a new way of thinking. I think we're actually going back to the traditional way of thinking. There was a lot of loyalty in business. The job opportunity wasn't so much the compensation package as it was the opportunity to solve problems within the community. And there's been a shift where people have been more focused inwardly rather than outwardly. And as a result, things have kind of started to stumble upon each other. It's more about me rather than we. And what we're using now is technology to start recognizing who I am and how we can integrate that into the we, so that everybody is optimized based on their skills and talents. And that's not chosen based on opinion. It's just chosen based on data. And the cool thing about it is, if there's something you're passionate about doing that you're not being selected for, now you have the data to recognize what milestones you need to hit so that you can be chosen for that opportunity, and we can get the right seats and the right butts in the right seats, and ultimately making sure that first off, the customer's objectives are taken care of. Second off, the business is doing it in the most profitable way possible. And third off, that we can all have fun doing it.
Well, I'm glad you included the fun portion, because if you can't enjoy what you're doing, then you don't do it very well. So that's very important to include. So let's look at Tommy as a person, because as we were talking about we and I and how we fit into the picture, how did you start to get into construction management, project management, but more particularly, when did you start to realize the problems and that you were a good candidate to solve those problems?
Uh, well, let's start with the end of the question. I don't know that I'm a good candidate for anything. You know, I think humility is the beginning piece of this journey that we all need to hold on to, because if we stop learning, we in fact start to fall behind. There's an age-old saying that if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get to where you've always gotten. And that's a lie, because everything is continuously progressing. So if you always do what you've always done, now you're starting to fall behind because everybody keeps moving forward. So, you know, when you say me or why, do I think I'm the one who's able to bring this to the market or bring these solutions? What you don't see behind me is a team of people. And if I weren't able to submit myself, recognize where I fall short, and help amplify the gifts and the talents of the other individuals that want to be a part of this mission, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So, and I'd love to shout out everybody's names, including you, who's invited us onto this podcast. It takes a community to bring these types of solutions to the market, but that's not what everybody came here to listen to. So, kind of backtracking about how it is that I got into this, probably the way a lot of people get into where they're at. I tripped and fell and pretty much stumbled into it. My expertise as a business optimizer happened at the time that the real estate market was booming. I ended up being provided an opportunity to open a franchise for a mortgage company. And unlike a lot of traditional franchises that already come with SOPs, processes, and procedures, and exact methodology of how you duplicate the business, scale, and grow, was not the case in the mortgage industry. It's a lot like actually the construction industry, where I'd like to describe it similar to the wild, wild west. Every operation operates uniquely compared to their competitor, and for a large variety of reasons. But the name of the game, whether you're in the mortgage industry, the construction industry, or even another vertical, is to first off accomplish the customer's objective in the least amount of time possible with the largest amount of profitability possible, while also being as competitive as possible. And so as I started to learn how to duplicate myself within that mortgage industry, that's where the light bulb turned on how not to work for the business, but instead have the business work for me. In the early 2000s, the bottom of the real estate market fell out. A lot of people blame that for their reason for having exited the market, with better foresight. Had I been more wise, I should have been able to anticipate it. So I'll take responsibility for where I felt short within my own business. But I took that failure and I used it to make sure that I don't make that same mistake again. I was granted an opportunity to work for actually one of our customers in the mortgage industry who had a construction company and said, "Hey, I want to see that type of optimization in my business." And so we came in, we had a lot of fun, tripled turnaround times, increased profitability. And it was in that experience that I started recognizing that SOPs weren't solving two of the major issues that every contractor is navigating. One is making sure that their estimates are matching up with their actuals, and the second is scheduling. So that's kind of a little bit about the journey, how I stumbled upon these major pain points within the industry, and why I'm here in front of you today, thanks to all the individuals and organizations that have partnered with us to bring this solution to the market and ultimately bring a graceful experience to everybody impacted by a legacy industry that every country is dependent on. And we as customers, we have a level of expectation of what we should receive when we're coughing up some cash. We as employees, we have a level of expectation when we're choosing or volunteering or exchanging our time to help a business grow. And we as business owners also have a level of expectation. And what we'd like to do is use this technology so that those expectations, which are reasonable, should be met. And that's what we're doing today.
And the expectations aren't anything new. People have always been driving for higher quality results. I want to ask, given that technology has been creeping into the construction and real estate industry for a couple decades now, why do you think now is such a major inflection point that a lot of firms are rushing to adopt it?
Man, that's such my response probably doesn't match up with the question. I'll start by the part that super excites me. We are on the brink of the fourth industrial revolution. Now, that's not the answer to your question, because the average person, while they've had experience with ChatGPT and a lot of AI plugins, and hey, we can have pictures done by AI, and a lot of these, we can have paragraphs or assignments written for us by AI. This is nothing in comparison to what we're truly embarking on as we both start developing the hardware that can process billions of considerations in a nanosecond, but also when we have the data that allows those calculations to be made. So this is a super exciting time for all verticals, especially those that kind of have been operating, as I described, in the wild, wild west. But the reason that you're seeing an increase of acceptance and even a desire for technology is slowly people are starting to realize that, I heard a long time ago, the brain was made for creativity, not storage. And we as beings within business are really trying to use it for storage and calculations when it is possible. And we're extremely gifted and talented. Some of us have giftings that are different than others. But the reality of it is that technology doesn't forget data, is able to sort through more of it faster, is able to find the consistencies that we're looking for more efficiently, and derive from that actionable steps that are more accurate than a human being is able to do. And we're starting to recognize that now. Just wait in the next 5 to 10 years when we plug it into this supercharged processing abilities, first and foremost, by making sure we have the right fuel, which is a very specific format of data. Uh, it's gonna change lives radically. And I know people are intimidated. There will be some people that are using this technology to hurt each other, but those of us who are applying it in a positive way, we're going to have a great experience with it, and consumers are going to be able to see a shift in what we can expect from an industry that has the second most complaints in the United States consistently.
Absolutely. I love the analogy of the fourth industrial revolution, and I liken data to oil. It's deep within the earth or our properties, and we have to learn to extract that, refine that, and use that. Now, I think this poses an inverse of my question, which is we have a $177 billion problem. Why has it persisted for so long, and why does it impact construction in particular so much?
All right, I'm glad you said that because I almost wanted to catch in the very beginning. The problem is actually 400 billion.
Oh, wow.
The problem is actually 400 billion. Now, there are some things that, at least at this point in time, we haven't created the methodology or the tools or the technology to go ahead and resolve it. That $177 billion is our calculation of what is in fact recapturable, or let's put it this way, avoidable. So of that 400 billion, almost half of it with technology can be put back into the profit margins of the subscribing contractors and or back into the pockets of the consumers. And in reality, I believe that you can spread that generously over both so that the contractors are making more and the consumers are paying less. So I wish I would have wrote the whole question down, but kind of backtracking, why are we here? Why are we losing so much money? This is an awesome question that I think people, unless you're in the midst of it, and even when you're in the midst of it, it's difficult to grasp the complexity of it. My easiest way of explaining this is um, play a game with me, Matthew. How many digits are in your phone number if you don't include the one but include the area code?
Uh, 3 plus 4, that's 10.
Perfect. Now, who else in the United States has the exact same phone number as you?
I would think no one, but I don't know. Is this a trick question?
No, it's straightforward. It's as simple as it gets. That's right. If you give your phone number out to somebody, you're the only one answering,
Right.
ideally, unless there's a glitch, your phone is the only one ringing. So what we've concluded with this simple exercise is that we can take 10 digits and we can rearrange them in so many different combinations that everybody in the United States who has a phone number has a different variation of those same 10 digits. Are we on the same page?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so now if we apply that to construction, if a project only had 10 steps, we could actually have everybody in the United States who has a phone number do that same project and do it in a different order. Only one of those ways is the fastest. You can actually take 10 digits and rearrange them 10 billion different ways. There isn't a single construction project that only has 10 steps. On top of that, if we were in a perfect world, I don't know that this is a perfect world, but in this scenario, if we were only running one project, uh, one change to that project would only impact that project. But the reality in construction is that change in one project, whether somebody completed something late, didn't show up, materials weren't correct, or even they finished something early, you have to change everything within that project. Sounds simple, but then you have to notify all impacted parties. Sounds simple, but then you have to also hope that all impacted parties can adhere to the changes, which is where things start to get complicated. And it gets even more diluted because the resources, you don't use the same person on a construction project from start to finish. There are specialists. The framers frame, the plumbers plumb, the electricians do the electricity. When one of those trades finishes, they go on to another project that's being produced simultaneously or scheduled next. And this one change to this one project now doesn't just create a ripple effect. Things start to just get out of control, not only relating that to that project, but all the projects that are being produced simultaneously and scheduled next. And if you want to zoom out of this, we just described what's happening to one contractor. We didn't even talk about the impact to their competitors that are sharing these resources. They're all buying materials from the same distributors. They're all using the same W-2, or excuse me, 1099 subcontractors. So one change to projects within my organization can ultimately make an impact to yours. And we're expecting human beings to be able to answer those questions right now. Why is somebody not at my property? And a lot of times we hear, well, this industry doesn't care. They're not even taking my telephone call. What people don't realize is they know why you're calling. They do care. And they're trying to figure out that answer. But they're theoretically evaluating billions of options to determine what is the most efficient way to move forward, to minimize losses, to maximize efficiency. And they're in a losing situation, which is why this industry has so many complaints. So as we start standardizing things, as we start capturing the data, and as we start bringing this industry together as a whole, we can start using this new technology to start answering those questions like the consumer expects instantly. Bring grace into an industry where really everything's on fire all the time. And the person who's getting the brunt of it is usually the employees. They're expected to do things in timeframes that are unreasonable. And then on top of that, they have a customer in their face that's totally dissatisfied when it's not even their fault. They didn't build the schedule. They're just responsible for one piece of the project, and the owner's losing their reputation and possibly profit margins while trying to do their best for the consumer. I've known contractors that have left their families for Christmas to go and trim out and finish properties only to walk away with the same dissatisfied customer they had before they left their family that Christmas. And, we're excited to turn that around. And it's just been unreasonable to expect that of this industry, considering the technology didn't exist. And we're getting closer. So very excited to be a part of that.
This is going to be such a fun episode to release. I mean, you're hitting on all the major problems that we talk about all the time. A lot of people don't understand the complexity of the construction and real estate industries. To me, it's quite a miracle that our cities are as well structured as they are, considering it feels like everything's held up with shoestrings and bubblegum. I mean, the number of stakeholders and different software, different perspectives and decisions and steps, and the total variables, you really see the butterfly effect widespread, except there's like 10 million butterflies all flapping their wings at once, and we're all getting hit by 10 million tsunamis. It's incredible. So, it really makes sense. I'm starting to read the writing on the wall that if you need to make 10 billion decisions, humans, we can't quite process information that quickly, and so we need the assistance of technology. That's where I want to guide this next question. So if we look at these major issues, what do we tackle first? And presumably, maybe it's timelines and schedules and project management, or it's just laying out the expectations, whatever that might be. You're the expert here. How do we start tackling that problem? And where do we insert technology where a human may have inserted error or fallen short?
Love the topic, love the questions, and you should almost charge me for this because I'm having too much fun. And I'll buy the quick pass so I can get to the front of the line. So where do we start? Again, you call me as an expert, and I appreciate that. And I have been studying the information, and I have been surrounded by a team where we have been working to get intelligent answers for these questions. But it always brings me back to, and I'm going to remember who it was, but the saying was, difficult decisions are only hard to make when you don't have all the facts. So in order to answer those questions, I never go based on gut or instinct because I'm a data driven person. The reality of it is that we need to ask ourselves, what is it that we have to do first in order to get to where it is that we want to go? One of the places, so we've got this incredible technology. I should write people's names down. Todd, forgive me for not remembering your last name off the top of my head, but he recently posted an article, and he did, bring a Fortune 500 company into the limelight who just announced that they're bringing AI into onto their product. And Todd turns around and says, "Let's call this what it is. This is nothing more than lipstick on a pig. You cannot take a jet fueled engine and strap it to a horse and buggy and expect to hit light speeds." And what he's really touching on is that, yes, artificial intelligence, also known as machine learning, also known as deep learning, has this superpower. But what we're missing is the infrastructure or the engineering to harness this power. If you take this type of power and put it on our existing technologies, they can't withstand the type of returns that this technology is able to provide. So the first thing is you're not going to be able to plug it into an already existing platform and get the type of optimization that this technology is able to provide. So don't get me wrong, you can plug it into anything that you want and you're going to start seeing some results, but the types of results that are going to be able to cut 400 billion in losses down to 200 billion in losses is going to require, as you put, a rethinking of how it is that we're going to process all of this. So the first thing is we need a different structure to be able to withhold or withstand the type of uh, progress or propulsion that the technology is able to provide. The second piece of the puzzle, and you hit on this as well, is that any engine requires oil or fuel. And you can't put the same types of oils and fuel into every engine. Imagine putting the same gas that you put into your car into the airline or into the airplane that you're about to fly, or even into, a military aircraft, an F-16 or an F-32, I believe it is. They require a different type of fuel. That's exactly what we need, is a very unique type of fuel. It's consistent data being captured across a variety of different subscribers. And the technologies that are currently on the market, the way that they got to the market, and don't get me wrong, they have provided incredible value in what it is that they've done to help make access to information easier, communication easier, accountability easier, phenomenal tools. There's no doubt about it. But what they've also done to make this easier transition from pre-technology to post-technology is they made everything customizable. You can put in things however you want. As a result, you've got a variety of different data that's being captured however the subscribers set it up. And as a result, we've now got inconsistent data across all of these competitors within the industry. Furthermore, the way that we're bringing a lot of these technologies out to the market is we're starting with a sliver of the puzzle, and we get really good at it, and then we start adding on functionality. In the building world, if you don't engineer a building from scratch for its whole scope and you start doing add-ons later, it loses its efficiency. And the same thing is happening with these technologies. Everybody's raving about APIs. Hey, we can plug it in. You sure can. It's like taking a garden hose, and that's how your data is transferring. But AI needs to have a fire hydrant. We need data transferring at such a pace back and forth without limitation to be able to cut $177 billion worth of losses. We can't do it through an API where information is trickling through. And then on top of that, we're limited with the amount of information that's trickling through because this one only allows data to transfer one way. This one only allows this data to transfer both ways. We need this data to be consistent. We need it to be available. And we need to understand the customer's journey, not just from the time that the contractors are showing up to the property and to the time that they leave. Every other piece of the puzzle that we as property owners don't take into consideration is a big part of understanding how we can improve on our efficiencies. So we need to know. People don't realize that before we come out to the property, there's a significant amount of work that has to take place before the tools actually show up and the employees actually show up. This is a part of the construction process. And if we have that segregated, how can we provide estimates without knowing the whole first part of the journey? It's like playing chess, but only having AI move 3 of your pieces and you're responsible for the rest of them. So that's my long-winded way of saying getting consistent data is the first piece of the puzzle. Starting to recognize that all of these different softwares that are talking together are ultimately going to create a hindrance for you over time to get the type of ROI that is going to be available is the second piece of the puzzle. You're looking for an ERP that has all of the information in one place. Data is flowing fluidly, and the artificial intelligence or the deep learning is able to capture that information to optimize the solutions that you're looking for, which is shrinking time, shrinking costs, increase profitability, and increase customer satisfaction.
Wow. I mean, like, okay, mic drop. Well, Tommy, you inspire me. The analogies that you throw out there as you explain all of this is impressive. And I think they're very creative. They help me visualize everything. Like taking the chess analogy where you could plug in AI and it's going to move your rook. And that's how some people are treating ChatGPT for a real estate development firm, where they say, well, I can cover this functionality. And what's going to happen is that you're going to have all these different technologies and they're not standardized, they're inconsistent, and you're duct taping together really a more advanced version of the same problems that have already persisted in the industry. And the amount of fragmentation and disparate systems and maybe lack of communication, or even taking the hose analogy, like the flow of data, like you'll get some trickle between technologies, but to actually realize the gains of artificial intelligence, there needs to be a two-way highway of there needs to be a dam. Well, dams are one way, but there needs to be some two-way water equivalent example that actually allows for the fluid movement of this information en masse. I think that's amazing to describe it that way. So let's dive into GMS, like what it looks and feels like to implement this. Who do you talk to on the day-to-day? What problems do you point out? And then how do you say that you can start to implement this solution?
Well, again, I always reverse engineer everything. Who do I talk to today isn't decided based on who I want to talk to today. It's who has the information that we need to be able to provide the solutions that we're promising. So I'll just kind of tackle another topic. Everybody goes after the money. The money isn't always where the data is, and it's definitely not in the construction industry. The money is a lot of times sitting with the general contractors, that are designing and building a lot of these awesome buildings that you described earlier. By the way, I mean, these contractors, we need to give them a round of applause because what they've built is unimaginable in the conditions that they've built it in, whether it's freezing cold, whether it's boiling hot. The danger of these situations, not only how high they are, but with the machinery that they're utilizing. I mean, my hat's off to these guys. These guys are truly heroes for not only American civilization, but for civilization itself. But if we're to kind of reverse engineer everything and you look at the statistics, general contractors self-produce 10 to 30% of the projects, which means that they're missing 70 to 90% of the data. Now, don't get me wrong. Everybody thinks, well, we know how much the subcontractors charge and we know how long it takes. Hey, we all love muffins. My wife personally likes to make them. So she needs to know what the ingredients are. And when she has the ingredients, she has the ability to influence the outcome of that muffin. And as general contractors, they also need the ability to influence the outcome of what it is that they're looking for without being handcuffed, waiting for subcontractors to recalculate their estimates, recalculate their schedules. When you have a customer and you're in the middle of the project that says, hey, I want to change this, the amount of money that starts falling out on the floor is so it's so astronomical, it's practically crippling. And then to have to turn around and say, well, I'm going to have to bill you this much, per hour or per day, that we're reevaluating this because I've got crews that I've got to put at a standstill just to consider what it is that you're asking. Imagine that that general contractor had the ability to put in those design changes and have instant access to a recalculation of estimate and a new start schedule because everything is flowing as we described in that previous question in one place freely, taking into consideration all the data necessary to be able to say, here's the cost of the change, here's the change to the schedule, accept or decline. That's where the technology is going. But in order to get there, we need to focus in and we need to support the industry that is a lot of times neglected. And it's the specialty trade contractors or the subcontractors, whether it's HVAC, plumbing, framing, excavation, the list goes on. We need to help them build out their estimates more accurately, more quickly, build out their schedules, help their schedules to be able to recalculate route as fast as your GPS is able to before it even knows that, before it even you've even approached the slowdown. I don't know if you've ever experienced that before, but you're driving from one location to another, traffic is moving freely, and all of a sudden your GPS ding, like there's a slowdown ahead. It's going to slow you down by an hour. But if we have some other alternatives and we can decrease that slowdown by this much, would you like to accept? Or even without that slowdown where maybe you deviate because you need to stop to grab a bite to eat or you need to stop to take a break. The GPS recalculates billions of options instantaneously based on the new information available to it to tell you this is now the most efficient way to move forward. And it's instantly able to tell you how much longer it's going to take you as a result of what you've done and how much the length of time. I know it seems like the same thing, but one is in distance and one is in time. And you have this information to do something with it, which is something that this industry deserves and needs. And until we get into the ingredients and help these subcontractors who are supporting these general contractors, we're still going to be scratching the tip of the surface. So our focus right now is helping in a neglected part of the industry that deserves more attention. They are the foundation of a lot of these businesses, literally, because they're excavating and pouring that concrete. And as we provide the services and support that they deserve and need, the value that the GMS is going to be able to bring to general contractors, it's going to be a night and day difference. Imagine a product that is actually calculating your subcontractors' estimates and schedules plugged into your organization versus you just kind of trying to look at, well, in the past, they charged us this much and it took this long without taking the granular information into consideration to give you accurate outputs. How much does it cost? How long will it take? And how quick can we get that information to you?
Right, right. I think that navigation analogy, kudos again, is fantastic in trying to describe all of this because we set out on a project, we're at point A, we know that we need to get to point Z. And right now, a lot of project management, everything between that is no man's land. And there's a total lack of guidance. But if we think of this like a GPS, GMS is GPS, where you're rerouting throughout that and the numbers are recalculating themselves so that we don't just wander into holes or into traps, which is often what happens where we're going one route and we're not foreseeing what's about to happen. And then it's $100,000 fix. Or there's major delays, or there's litigation, and we're talking to different parties, and we're not on the same page, and there's confusion, and the project falls apart. And so it makes sense that we need something that can forecast a path for us, but then also what that path costs and how long it's going to take. I am in love with that navigation analogy now that you mentioned it. And I think for anyone trying to start to visualize without actually having eyes on your platform right now, that's an amazing way to describe this. I want to ask, where do you see building information modeling fitting into this? Because a lot of BIMs are being introduced and more detail is being incorporated into these, and even phasing to try to mitigate some of the on-site problems. And we say, do this first, then this, if X and Y. How do you see BIM fitting into this picture?
Man, it's a big piece of it. So excited for BIM and the amount of losses that we're sustaining over time as a result of lacking that technology. I'm hesitant to pour everything out there, but there's such a treasure chest of awesome stuff here. I've heard over and over again people tell me, we don't know what we're going to find until we, tear open the wall. Well, that's a lie. You don't know what you're going to find because we haven't harnessed the data historically to tell you that there's a 20% chance there's asbestos back there. And based on the amount of space we're looking at, this is the potential cost in the change order before we tear down that wall. There's a 15% chance that there's water damage. And again, based on the size of what it is that we're looking at, this is the cost to remedy it before we even move forward. With BIM, man, we decrease that time frame to get to the core of costs so much faster, even by eliminating. I can't tell you how many, like I live in the Midwest. I know you're originally from the Midwest. We have hailstorms rip through on a regular basis. It's almost like free roof season. But the funny thing is that we have to have our roofs remeasured over and over and over again. BIM is going to be able to start capturing the information specific to project. Our technology will actually associate it with the property owner versus what a lot of our competitors do, where all the data is actually held lock and key with the contractor so that the property owner can, in fact, take the historical work that's been done to the property and transfer it even to the new property owner. And as the new property owner has more work done, that also gets pushed through or integrated into BIM. And now these properties are coming with what's similar to like a Carfax report where you can see what's done, you can see what's hidden behind there, you can see who it is that did it, so you can reach out to them if you need additional information. And better yet, we're slowly working to get the warranty information from the manufacturers integrated to that so that it actually starts notifying you that manufacturer recommends that you have this recaulked. And a lot of people, what's the last time you were told for a building that you own that something needs to be recaulked or debris needs to be removed? And then as soon as you call the insurance company to have it replaced, or the manufacturer say, hey, this is warranted. And they say, yeah, but you didn't do these things. Well, I didn't know I had to. Well, now we're going to empower these property owners so that they know what has to be done. We're going to help the manufacturers prolong the lives of their products. And we're also going to be helping the contractors who are needed to provide the services to help maintain these properties proactively versus reactively. And like you said, reactively, a lot of cases it's $100,000 plus. And, we can scale that depending on the size of the project. And proactively, we're talking, cents on the dollar.
There's so much synergy between what you're working on and what we're working on. The Carfax is a great area to start. We're seeing that analogy arise a little bit more, and I've used it myself because people are familiar with the value of historical data of something that they own to prove its quality and their commitment to maintaining that quality. I serviced the vehicle, I replaced these items, and so that when I go to sell it, it either has no discounts or even commands a premium compared to other used cars on the lots. And building is consolidating, verifying, organizing all of this asset data across the full life cycle to make that case, whether it's for the insurance companies or for investors, lenders, or the next owner, to pull this full life cycle data. And it's not lost. There's no air leaks throughout the process because, again, going back to if you let certain information disappear over time, you're weakening the foundation of your tools, of your property, and your ability to act on that in the future. So really treating data as an asset that lives alongside the physical asset. And this goes back to the mentality shift. I think historically, data and compliance has been such a liability for people. It's the thing that you have to drag yourself through. But now, because of the tools that are available to us, we realize, whoa, if I capture that data, I can plug it into this and this turns into dollar signs. Suddenly, data is something very valuable that I go out of my way to capture, organize, and structure, analyze, and utilize in all sorts of creative ways. And I mean, I'm just overall very impressed with the way that you have thought out GMS in connecting these dots that historically have been disconnected, and it's just led to so many issues, and people don't necessarily realize it, but for people who are engaged in the industry, not only is it a headache, but it can be completely damning because if let's go back to the cost analysis of something. If you're completely off or there's unexpected expenses, that return on investment dwindles away. And sometimes it gets to the point where the property is underwater now. And we have to figure out a solution. Maybe it's a capital call, maybe it's a foreclosure, and then people are laid off. Like there's quite a domino effect that happens from a couple bad decisions or miscalculations along the way.
Totally. Totally. That's why I'm passionate about this. And, I'm so thankful to my parents, having taught me never take shortcuts, and always put people first, and that's what my focus is as we're building this. And it's making sure that the people that you've just described in that scenario, and in that scenario, you're illustrating a lot of times the property owner or the property management company. But these guys, they're business owners. They're human beings. They're parents. They're people just like you and I. And what we want to do is come alongside them and help as we would want to be helped to find the most efficient way to remedy that situation. But more importantly, isn't remedying it; it's preventing it from happening again.
Right.
Because if we throw somebody a fish, we're hurting them. But if we can help everybody fish, we're all going to rise up in this together.
So I've got a couple show notes that I've got next to me, and one of the thing that stands out is you highlight the role of the consumers. Now we've been talking about the property owners and the contractors the whole time and why they should care because there's dollar signs attached to that. When you say that a lot of this growth and innovation is consumer driven, who is the consumer in that case?
This is a good one. I get too excited for this. So now you can charge me double for my admission tickets. And consumers are awesome. I heard or learned a long time ago, the best conversationalist is a listener. What a lot of people in sales miss is they're so excited about their product and their solution that they miss the opportunity to hear about the problem that the consumer is looking to solve. And ultimately, as a salesperson, we're really, let's just be transparent, trying to get them to pull out their wallet and hand us a check or hand us money for our product and service. And the way to best do that is to let the consumer make the sales pitch for us. Listen to everything it is that they're looking for, and then saying yes, yes, yes. And most importantly, no, if it's something that we can't provide to the level that we would expect. But don't stop there. Hopefully, you've built a network where you can redirect them and put them in touch with somebody else that that is a yes to that question, who would do better than you, and start building out your network of getting referrals back and forth. But let's get back to the question. Consumers are telling us how they want to buy things, and Amazon is one of the best examples of how consumers have changed the retail industry. We all think it's Amazon, but in reality, if the consumers continued to solicit J.C. Penney and Sears, and I don't know if you guys have Shopko's or Kmart's wherever you're at, you would know that it's not the distributors that are dependent on determining how the flow of these transactions are taking place. It is, in fact, where the consumers are looking for you.
Right.
And so ultimately, As this type of technology comes out onto the market and consumers are able to find things right on their telephone, put things in their cart, take time to consider it, make changes, because a lot of this stuff, while it may feel like rocket science, it's only because you don't have the data. What consumers are going to be able to do is make changes to whatever it is, these products or projects that they've put in their cart, and they're going to be able to see instant updates both on price and time frames. They're even going to be able to visualize it in 3D BIMs or put on some Oculus and actually walk into the property and see it and swipe and say, no, I don't want that type of siding, or I'd like a different type of interior wall, or go ahead and change this out. And we're just going to mine the database to find both what the cost is, as well as what the cost to install is, as well as the availability of the resources. And we're going to be able to instantly provide the same information that we're providing now. But rather than doing it manually and taking time, we're going to be able to consider billions of options in a nanosecond, and we're going to be able to provide that to the consumer. And as soon as the consumer has that, they're going to stop soliciting the contractors in the traditional method, which isn't a bad thing, because one thing that's happening here is the consumers pre-qualifying themselves. They already see the price, they see the time frame before they even reach out to you. You know they have the money, and you know they're interested in your product and service. So here goes a lot of waste that contractors are paying for, and that they're lumping on top of the projects that are actually being purchased, but these are costs that are not even associated with those purchases. So this is a good thing. The second piece of the puzzle is that the consumer is also going to feel more control. Consumers like that. With technology, Amazon is continuously notifying you of, hey, there's a price change to a product in your cart. That's going to help with the sales cycle as well, where instead of you calling and saying, hey, did you get my estimate? Are you, like, where are you at? Hey, will you pull out your wallet today? They're just going to get a simple, gentle notification. The price has changed. The schedule has changed, similar to airline tickets. I don't know about you, but when I'm buying airline tickets, I'm almost quick to purchase them because I'm scared to see what's going to happen
Right.
if I
Yeah.
research for it 5 minutes later.
I was going to say the airline ticket is a great example because what we're seeing in the construction industry, where there's volatility in the price of things, we book our airline tickets because we know it can go from $359 to $699 by the next week, and we live in an era. I mean, look at the tariffs that are happening. We know that when these go into effect, if they have or are pending, this radically changes the cost of materials, and on projects that already have a small margin on their yield to cost, then that could completely disrupt the project again. And they are going to have to be very proactive in deciding, well, how do we go to a different distributor? How do we get this a different way? Who's a different manufacturer? Can we get this inside the US instead? Or if it is coming from outside the US, like who's in charge of that? What country? Are there any loopholes in the shipping and logistics so that we don't pay a 25% tax on top of that? And just being able to make those decisions rapidly. But you need that influx of data first, or else you're throwing darts with a blindfold, because how can you change something like that unless you know that you have to make that decision in the first place? It's going back to the GPS. You're flagged that there's going to be traffic ahead of you. If it doesn't tell you there's any traffic, you don't know to renavigate, right? So we have to be able to identify these things.
Totally. Very exciting, and it isn't just limited to the tariffs. Look at what what was that thing? You're going to laugh at me, that shut down our country, the pandemic. Look at
Oh,
what
yeah.
that,
Sure.
look
Sure.
at what that did to pricing. And then the other thing you said is, man, all we just need is this inflow data. Everybody's, well, where are we getting the data from? Where are we getting the data from? The answer to that question is we're already capturing it. The problem is that we're not capturing it consistently. And the problem is that we're not capturing it in a format that allows everybody to have access to it. And the GMS
Right.
provides that ability.
That's awesome. And one more item as we start to wrap up here. I mean, you were very visionary when you were talking about being able to put on, augmented reality goggles and be able to see the property or the development before you, and making decisions that way. I think it's just great to reiterate all the crossroads of real estate and technology that are here. It's not just platforms and software as a service or AI. I mean, between robotics and IoT, that's another thing. If you have real time data from a job site and someone doesn't have to micromanage what's happening, and we're able to pick up, through a camera that recognizes that something is not correct or off base, and then notify us. I mean, it's phenomenal. All the different areas where construction tech and prop tech are overlapping, and it just goes to reiterate the scale of the changes that we're witnessing before us. It's not just better decisions. I mean, it could fundamentally change how we build cities.
Fourth industrial revolution, brother. This is exciting stuff. It really is.
So that being said, let's talk about roadmap 2025. What does it have in store for GMS? And I guess to backtrack a little bit, you recently closed a fundraising round, so congratulations.
Thank you.
What's been pertinent for you guys, and what are you working on next?
You know, steady as she goes. We got to be very careful to chase after tennis balls, or a butterfly, so to speak. And the focus for me is always on the not only our subscribers' experience, but really their consumers' experience, because we know that consumers are ultimately driving the market, whether we want to accept that fact or not. So, this year the GMS is in the market. Now we're just working with what we call subject matter experts or beta testers, and we're working intimately with them to make sure that the software is in fact solving their problems and improving their customers' experience. And as we get through that, we will do a soft launch finally, again, focusing on the specialty trade market and subcontractors. And then after we have enough subcontractors in certain geographical areas, we will start opening up to general contractors. And we plan on repeating that process from residential to commercial to civil, and start capturing the data that we as a community, as a country, deserve to have available to us when we're making decisions that are affecting not only our pocketbooks personally when we're purchasing projects for ourselves, whether it's for the business or for our families, but also as taxpayers to make sure that we're choosing the right products for the right use. And when we have the information that's telling us that in this climate, this is the product that costs this much to install, this is the cost to maintain it, this is the longevity of it before we need to replace it, and have that type of information to be able to have ultimately decisions made for us by knowing our objectives. Again, once we know what is it that the consumer is looking for, here's what we want built, here's how long we need to maintain it for before we're going to revamp it, destroy it, and build it bigger. That's the information that's going to even direct us in what are the products that would best suit our needs, and even help us narrow in on the decision-making process. So that's, again, long-winded answer, but starting smaller, making sure that our subscribers and their consumers' needs are being met, and then continuing to expand on the market to get this technology into the hands of everybody who's ready for those fundamental changes and a more graceful experience with the construction industry.
I have a follow-up question to that, but before I do, I'm going to interject and hopefully not derail my train of thought. When we talk about rebuilding buildings, it brings to mind the circular economy, which is if we have information on materials or components of a property and we've tracked that over time, that when we go to demolish that or redevelop, we're able to perhaps reuse some of those elements. And I saw a very interesting statistic that you could lower the cost of housing by 20 to 30% if we were more efficient with the way that we reuse materials. But it requires a thorough tracking and I guess a Carfax, right? A history report of those elements. Now, back to my other question. Are you able to disclose some of the partnerships or beta partners that you have that you're working through with?
Yeah. So our first one is unique to the industry, but they build greenhouses. And the reason I say they're unique is a lot of times these are prefabricated, so they're not stuck navigating all the BOMs or having to build out their own material lists. And a lot of that is already engineered for them and included in the package. We have a small franchise office called Save My Roof. They are part of a larger franchise. So as things start flowing for them, we're excited to start seeing if this is something we can expand upon with them. We have a couple of other companies, which I'd love to mention the names. I mean, in reality, we've got well over 50 contractors that have applied to use our product just through the testing period. But because this is an ERP and not like a simple dating app where you log in, you snap a picture, write a paragraph about yourself, and start swiping, this
Right.
requires major setup. This requires major training. This requires uploading all of your projects into it. This requires actually everybody within the organization using the product so we can start capturing that data. So the way that we're filtering through our list of applicants that have applied to use our product is by kind of gauging a commitment from them. And in some cases, we've actually been given, we're offering beta testing for free, and we've been given close to $250,000 just so that people can be in the front of the line of this testing period. So that kind of pulls the veil or tears the veil a little bit about who we have currently using it and who's coming down the pipe.
Well, that's that's awesome. Offering something for free and people are offering to pay instead because they see that much value in it. I think that's fantastic. And it sounds like you have a variety of use cases that you're going to um, be able to explore different case studies that come out of this. Here's different contractors from different backgrounds, different geographies, different systems, and here's how we caught them up to speed. Because you're very correct that it's not a dating app, and we run through the same thing where everyone has a different starting line, and you have to be able to get them to our expectation, and that can really vary depending on projects. And I think over time, this is something that can be automated a little bit further, but there's this is the reality of the industry where there's a lack of consistency and standardization, and somehow we have to get everyone through the funnel and having the same outcome. So I think that's a great point, and congratulations on all the success that you've had. My last call to action uh, that I want you to speak on is, how can people start to get in touch? Are you looking for any more? I mean, it sounds like you've got quite the pipeline, so maybe not yet, but how can people start to get involved, or how would you like them to get involved with you?
Oh, I'm going to go back again. Difficult decisions are only hard to make when you don't have all the facts. Don't limit yourself based on what it is that you've heard me say. You may be the beta tester that we're looking for to bump in line because of your enthusiasm, because of your experience, because you understand these problems. And we're looking for partners. We're not looking for beta testers. We're looking for pioneers that are ready to change the world with us. So if that's you, jump onto our website, thegms.com. There's a meeting link you can go ahead and fill out and just go ahead and let's get together. Let's talk about it. Another interesting thing, a lot of times people say, well, I may not be the right fit. You may not be the right fit, but you may know somebody who's looking for this solution. So starting these conversations, starting to build our networks together. I know people where I'm not the right fit for them. Learning about you and your services only opens my ability to be able to serve the people that I can't and put them in touch with you. So, don't limit yourself. If you're interested in the space, reach out to us and let us know. We're definitely looking for partners from a user standpoint, as we call subject matter experts. And, we're really limited in our growth potential with regards to money. We may be, the rounds that we build, they're based on bringing an MVP to the market and starting to scale the product. But we could do things faster if we had more investment partners. So happy to learn regarding the passions and interests that the investors that may be listening to this call and see if, there's a good fit mutually where, they always want to talk about the money. The byproduct of SaaS especially on an enterprise platform, is super significant. The only way to get people to move from one enterprise platform to the next is bringing a new technology to the market. This is an experience that we're not going to have multiple times in our lifetime. It's like saying, hey, we've created the computer. When are we going to create the next one? Well, the computer's already been created. Enterprise also has a low churn rate for that reason. So this gives us an opportunity to get a foothold in a market that's in a legacy industry. Anyways, I won't go too far into that. So there's a lot of money to be made, but more importantly, we're looking for people that are aligned with our mission. And the mission is to provide value and a graceful experience to our subscribers and our communities. I'm a property owner. Not only have I been on the construction side of the challenges that this industry is navigating, but I've also been on the consumer side that this industry is navigating. And some of these stories that people have, they are nightmares. And we can be a part of that solution. So if that's something that you're passionate about, thegms.com, meet with me. I'd love to learn from you because I'm only as good as the people that I'm surrounded by. And we'd love to have you be a part of our team.
Well said. We'll have links to your site and social medias in the show notes. So people will be able to check that out and go directly to thegms.com. Tommy, it's been such a pleasure having this discussion with you. We've covered a broad range of topics, but I think the overarching trend of not only trying to advance the industry, but preparing the industry for the advancements that are coming and working through these bottlenecks that have always been persistent. We're really at an awesome inflection point in the market and in technology where real change is possible. People always ask, if this was so great, why wasn't it done before? And sometimes the answer is the technology just wasn't there. And I think this is one of those cases. And we get to be the pioneers of this new technology and bringing in an age of transparency and efficiency to the construction and real estate industry. So Tommy, thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure.
Hey, Matthew, thanks for being a catalyst. Not only are you doing it yourself, but inspiring others to come alongside you. So thank you for what it is that you're doing. Thank you for letting us partner with you. And we look forward to crossing paths with you again.
Absolutely. It's inevitable.
Sounds great.